So, who here remembers 2020? I know most of us are trying to block it out. Specifically, in 2020, the supply chain shattered, and across much of the world, you couldn't get medical supplies for love or money, because our supply chain is optimized for efficiency, not resilience. And what happened, especially amongst the maker and open hardware community, was inspiring. It was really amazing. It was something I spent a lot of time in. I imagine a lot of folks in this room were involved in some way or another. This is a very brief list, but a lot of folks came together trying to solve this problem, creating open source medical supplies, PPE, etc. One such organization, opensourcemedicalsupplies.org, claimed responsibility for around 16 million as of, say, mid-2022. Globally, I think the number is closer to 48 million. There's some really inspiring things that happened. But also it was confidence. All right, really quick. Everyone put up your hands if you feel like you personally learned valuable lessons from the COVID response that are going to change how you deal with the next disaster that comes. Put your hand up and leave it up. Okay, now keep it up if you feel like your community also learned these lessons. Okay, keep them up if you feel like your government learned these lessons. That's what I thought. So the thing is that there's no version of the next 50 years that gets any easier. There's no reason to believe that we are any better prepared for the next crisis. The future is going to be a series of disasters filmed through phone cameras, and the point of view gets closer and closer until we're the ones filming it. And, given what's happening with hantavirus, the next disaster could be any day now. So how do we take what we have learned and actually be better prepared for the future? The thing is, the response was not something that makes the maker community or engineers or hardware nerds special. This is a human thing. This is a mammal thing. Rebecca Solnit wrote a wonderful book, which I recommend, documenting how in crisis people come together. It is what people do. When the official channels fail and the government falls apart and people are left to their own devices, they come together and they help each other. It is what we do. This is what Kropotkin wrote about, and properly read, this is also Darwin's thesis, that mutual aid is not a form of idealism, it is a survival mechanism. It is what species that survive do. So, how can we learn from this? When I was there trying to run around and coordinate these open hardware responses, trying to get the open hardware PPE and ventilator designs to places that could build them, distributed to places that needed them, I watched the wheel reinvented over and over and over again. I watched people burning out, spending 70% of their time and energy and volunteer man hours manually solving simple coordination problems. I saw people doing things because it was easier to start a new prototype that got halfway to being useful than it was to find an existing design and improve on it. And especially when it came to the context of medical devices, anything more complicated than PPE has to be safe. It has to be tested, otherwise you could hurt someone. There was a lot of people, especially in labs and universities, who got very excited about making open source ventilators. So there's a huge shortage of. And very, very few of these made it into production or use, and frankly, that's for the best. Most of these would have killed people, frankly. They'd overinflate someone's lungs, and then great, you've not died of COVID, you've died of your hardware. there were some good designs out there, but how do you find it? How do you know that the version that you have is useful? These are the problems that kept me up, and these are the problems that I spent most of 2021 yelling about to anyone who would listen. So there are underlying problems that I can't fix. I don't know how to fix the supply chain. I don't know how to fix the social and political realities that created that crisis in the first place. But there is a specific set of problems that we can solve. So, with universal open hardware data standards, we can solve discoverability, we can solve portability. It allows us to start doing things like automating design to facility manufacturing, automates discovery and sync. It allows you to lock versions and say, this specific version of this specific design is actually safe to use. More to say, you get the idea. A lot of these are problems that are very well solved in open source software and are very, very difficult to solve in open hardware. If you are already operating inside a closed, vertically integrated ecosystem running on SAP, running on any of these big supply chain management systems, this is trivial. It's already solved for you. But these are the systems that broke. These are the systems that failed us. The open hardware ecosystem is the opposite of this, and as you are all very well aware, the extreme heterogeneity and openness and flexibility is also what makes it nearly impossible to coordinate anything at scale. So what can we do about this coordination infrastructure? Obviously, I'm not working on this alone. I felt it's important to acknowledge that there's a lot of people working on this at various points. Many of them are here. There's a lot of moving parts to this. I'm specifically trying to solve a narrow but critical slice of it. But obviously, this is an open problem, and a lot of people are coming together on it. So the thing that I am here specifically to talk about is an open source tool that I have been building in collaboration with Helpful Engineering, a group I helped start during COVID, called Open Hardware Manager. It is primarily solving this core problem of, given an open hardware design, how do I find places that are capable of producing it? This is, again, the thing that I saw about 70% of volunteer man hours in COVID burned trying to solve in ways that were, lost entirely to time. Everyone who built systems to solve this during COVID created spreadsheets that no longer exist. There's no infrastructure, and so this is what I'm trying to solve here. This is on a technical level, this is a fast API server, runs in a Docker container that you can interact with very easily. You can run it on very simple hardware. It is built primarily on these two open data standards. So open know-how is a way of representing all of the information required to produce any given hardware object. And open nowhere is a way of representing what is a given facility capable of doing. And so this, again, these are things that are trivial in closed ecosystems, but the ambiguity of how people build these systems and how they run their facilities and the fuzziness at those edges is where this gets complicated. I don't have time. I was hoping to do an actual tech demo, but since I can't plug in my laptop, I'm just going to have to describe it. But at the heart of it, the thing that this does is it says, okay, we have information about what a product needs. We can infer, if the design files contain STLs, we know that the process requirements include 3D printing. If it has a DXF, we can assume that it requires laser cutting, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to do a lot of inference. The whole system is built on a sort of a 4-layer pipeline that says, okay, first we do direct matching, string comparison, one-to-one, looking for matches. as, that's only going to get part of it. So then the next layer down does heuristics. It says, all right, we have these banks of rules and synonyms. All of these things are other ways of referring to this one process, so we roll those up. If that doesn't produce a match of sufficient confidence, it rolls down to the next layer that uses NLP, uses vector embedding to look for things in the same semantic space to try to find a better match. And then the final layer, which is optional, is there's an LLM layer that kind of provides a sanity check to the whole thing and can find matches where they're very ambiguous. The system is meant to run on very light hardware, meant to run offline, so the LLM layer is optional. If that's not available, it will still work. It will return you a ranked set of matching facilities. It will also find, so what it returns is a supply tree, which is a structured JSON object that says, given this design, here is a solution. And this can be spread across multiple sites. So if you have a complex design that requires sheet metal bending and laser cutting and 3D printing, and no one site can do that, as long as it knows of some set of sites or facilities that can do it, it will roll those up into a solution and return it. This is where the tech demo is going to happen. So since this is what I had to work with, I've included a couple of screenshots of the front end. This is the very simple reference front end that I threw together. The system itself is really meant to run as an API server, but no one wants to look at raw JSON. So very, very broadly, I picked this as an open source ventilator design that came out of that. You go through the matching workflow and tell you, it will offer explanations of how it arrived at the match, what its confidence was, what was missing, provide recommendations if something is not quite right or you're close to a match but don't have one. And then for all of the valid matches that you find, you select the ones you want and it will generate an RFQ, a request for quote, that you can send out to those facilities. In and of itself, seems fairly simple, but if anyone spent any time during COVID trying to solve this problem, that 2-minute process took you probably about a week. So what does that do for us now? In 2020, this community came together and did some really amazing things. Produced 48 million units of PPE worldwide and struggled. Everyone came together because of what people do, but the process sucked. And I just want to ask you guys, when the next crisis happens, when the next time the supply chain breaks and you all come together and go, I want to help, I want to do something, what if it didn't suck to do that? I will also point out, I imagine a lot of you are thinking this, oh good, another standard. No one has time to manually learn and translate their existing projects into another standard. How do I even interact with this? What am I going to do with all of the legacy systems that I don't have time to go update? I have to all this. The same pipeline that I can use to find matches also is repurposed within the system to translate existing projects into this standard. So what I was going to demo, I have about 25 existing open hardware designs from the internet, all on GitHub or GitLab links. And I can point my system at OHM, OKH, generate from URL, pass it the link, and it will pull the entire thing down, consume it, parse it, and spit out a valid OKH. You can also do package management, where you can say, all right, the OKH is a thin JSON manifest that's just all of the metadata of the object. But a hardware has a lot of heavy files. It has your CAD files, your SQL files, and so on. So it is the manifest, very lightweight structure that says here's where all of those files can be found and links to them. The package is actually the full directory structure of all those files. So you can treat it like NPM. You can say, all right, build the local directory structure, pull all of those files, instantiate them locally, push that package remotely, version it, pull it down somewhere else, move it around. You can also, if you want to start a new file or a new project that is compliant with the system, you can scaffold those out with this tool. So I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for people to adopt and to meet people where they're at, so that you're not just going, great, another system I have to learn. So if this is interesting, if this sounds at all like something that you care about, what can you do about it? If you run a makerspace or a Fab Lab, publish your capabilities. If you are designing hardware, publish your designs. If you're building tools, integrate against the API. This is all meant to be pretty accessible. It is very thoroughly documented. Use it. Let us know what you want it to do. There's a lot of ideas about the future roadmap. This is going to integrate with the Maker Resilience Kit that we were talking about earlier. The things that I'm working on now are how to make this a federated data source. So rather than having yet another Thingiverse where everyone puts their designs and then it loses funding and goes away and all the designs are gone, it is meant to run as a mesh network where you care about your designs on your node, nodes discover each other, and you use like Gossip Protocol to synchronize their designs independently. The other big piece that we're working on is the business logic. So how can you automate the process of calculating the cost it will, how much will it cost you to build this thing that someone has just sent you a request for? So these are the things that we're still building. But the point of this is not to be an economic engine. The point of this is not to say, how do we get rich as makers? This system is never going to compete with Amazon on price point per unit. This is because a crisis is going to come again. And I know when it happens, I will run towards the fire, and I imagine a lot of folks here will as well. And it would be great if we had better tools than spreadsheets and calling people to be like, hey, can you make this thing? Here's the link to the project, because I can get a hold of me. Here's some of the groups that work on this. If you're interested, come find me after, or we have a Q&A on Discord, and hopefully we'll hear from some of you soon.